Is that a California earthquake?
And that is Kurt Rickoff you just heard on the live feed, asking Kevin if it's a Californian earthquake here on Consutlervation, in a twist at the start of the show, before we get into this week's subject. Now, those of you who follow the announcements on social media, today we are interviewing Doug and Cynthia, but it turns out we're going to be doing that next week, given the 4th of July and so on. But back by popular invitation, or nothing to do with the fact you showed up, Kurt, I promise. We are interviewing the fabulous Kurt Rickoff today, who's with us from St. Louis and Missouri and Chesterfield, and definitely not Chicago. That's an in-house joke if anyone's wondering what I'm talking about. So, Kurt, how are you, my friend?
Great. Had a wonderful long 4th of July weekend. I was celebrating with friends and family, and threw a 70th birthday party in there for my father-in-law as well. So wonderful. Weather held out nicely. Doing well.
70th birthday party. That's an incredible innings, isn't it?
Yes.
To celebrate that. So,
and he likes to. His birthday gift that he wanted was a push lawnmower. So he got a new lawnmower for his 70th birthday.
Not a ride-on mower, a push mower. That says a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, he's doing fantastic.
And what was your favorite food over the weekend? Was there a particular dish you liked on 4th of July celebrations?
Probably on the birthday party we hosted at our house, I made some barbecue chicken that was really, really good.
Yeah, I'm actually quite hungry. That sounds delicious. And one other question then about the weekend. So what was it like having a big celebration after the 18 months we've all suffered?
I think that there's no doubt that added to the anticipation, the atmosphere, everybody was excited. We have in our local community on Saturday, we have a parade and fireworks, and it's a town of 1,300 people. However, the town was jam-packed. I would say the population was at least doubled, if not tripled, that day. You could not hardly drive on the streets with people came into town to watch the fireworks and parade. Like many communities, the fireworks were amped up. They were better than ever because of the situation and the what felt like a kickoff, if you will, like a brand new beginning.
It definitely does feel like that a bit, doesn't it, from a US perspective? And I read loads of the articles about the supersonic, fireworks displays across the United States. Now, we do have Kevin Turnbull with us. Kevin, welcome back to the show again, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Kevin's going to ask Kurt a couple of questions in a little while about his business. But Kurt, tell us a bit about your business and what you spend your time doing.
Well, we have an accounting, payroll, tax, and business advisory firm. Our payroll firm and business was split off years ago, so it is a separate standalone business, but it works. It's fully integrated with our accounting firm as well. We've grown over 47 years now. We've been in business. My parents started it in the basement of our home in 1974, and from there we've grown, up to 3 locations right now. And what I do is try to provide the vision, the leadership of the firm, the direction, and help with any things that the recruiting process I've been helping with quite a bit recently, just because of the nature of the industry.
And now, Kevin, let's unlock one of your questions at this stage. Naturally, Kev, is there a question you want to ask Kurt?
Yeah, I believe, Kurt, that your business partner is your wife, Mindy. What's it like working with family? What are the pitfalls?
Well, for me, it's interesting because we get that question a lot, of course, and I grew up with that. As I mentioned, my parents started the firm in the basement of our home, and they worked together until they still do when they were still working here. So I grew up in that situation and in that atmosphere, so it was very normal for me. specifically to your question, what's it like to work with my wife? So I went into it thinking, well, this is very normal. However, of course, it's not. Most people don't get the wonderful opportunity to spend every day with their wife. Some people have this misnomer that we sit next to each other and chit chat all day about personal life, but of course, we don't do that either. Like anything, there was growing pains. So we've been doing it for 24 years ourselves now, and a lot of growing pains. And the expectations were different. I expected her to be like me, and she expected me to be like her, which we are complete opposite people. She's a very task oriented person. I'm not. So that led to a lot of tension and anxiety over the years. We have since resolved a ton of that by putting together a true business framework and separation and understanding each other's roles and skill set and strengths. So that is the absolute key that helped us the most and allowed us to really grow ourselves and grow the firm as well.
Right. Before I moved to LA, I had a business in the UK, and it was owned by my wife and I, and we both worked in it. And what you say about kind of division of responsibilities absolutely echoes with me. You're good at different things, and I was the CEO, and she was, I don't know, she was the boss really, despite what title I had. But we learned early on that I was good at certain things, she was good at other things. She was stronger at operations, I was better at strategy. I didn't mind public speaking, so I did a lot of that to build the brand. But we were at pains to kind of make it compatible. Otherwise, you just end up arguing. That's not good.
100%, and you mirror us as well. Like I said, I would prefer to be strategizing, looking at the future view, looking ahead, where thankfully she keeps me grounded and realizing we're not going to get there if we don't solve today's problems either. And thankfully she's done an incredible job of doing that. She does take care and handle so many things now without any kind of intervention or help from me.
Right. Now, Dave, does this resonate with you? Because obviously, Debbie, your much better half, works in the business as well. What's your view of it all?
I think Kurt, it hit the proverbial nail on the head a few minutes ago about working through a framework, and I think what it allows us to do is to be able to differentiate between, or sorry, not differentiate, that to be different, allows us to discern what is our own agenda sometimes versus what have we agreed to do. And it's a fine line, Kurt, isn't it, around getting used to going after things you might like doing and actually sticking to the plan you've agreed to. And the only other thing that I would add to what Kurt said is that Colette Bell, as who was on the show a few weeks ago, does play a really important role. That whenever Debbie and I are in some type of disagreement, we raise the disagreement directly in its rawest form to Colette. And Colette, in those rare moments, just takes a view, and we both agree to whatever that view becomes. So it's no longer a separative view that's different. Whatever the middle ground is, we just sign up to it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, right?
So
there's not much benefit in taking positions, is there?
No.
If you can't reach agreement, then there's something wrong.
But also, Kevin, not stepping back either. I don't know how you find that, Kurt, but is you may notice that the other person could accidentally be wearing a slightly incorrect hat in the discussion, whether that's being the wife or the husband, unintentionally. But it's allowing the other person space to readjust and still go through the conversation, even if they're starting from a slightly squiffy perspective. If you know what I mean. So no, love it. Before we go to Kevin's next chunky question, the other thing I wanted to say, 1974, Kurt, do you have any plans for 2024 and your 50th anniversary?
They are in the making. We have not, we've discussed very informally. We did some things for 40. We had a big open house at each location. Back then we only had 2 locations, and we did an open house at each, invited clients and team members, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure what we're going to do for 50th, the details, but we certainly will be doing something significant and enjoyable for our team to really recognize them, and even retired team members. And of course, the founders, my parents, we will hope to be able to show them the respect and recognition they deserve.
I love it. It's an incredible thing. And before we go back to Kevin, I just want to ask you, what is one of your proudest moments of the last 18 months? It's been a hard time. Is there anything that you're really proud of?
It was, I thought you said to Kevin. Was that to me?
It's to you, Mr. Rick.
Oh, okay. You said before going back to Kevin. Gotcha. Proudest thing in the last 18 months was the way we helped our clients. Our team got together. The impact, I've used the word impact internally with our team more and more and more. And it cannot be overemphasized enough. The impact we had in the last 18 months on the small business community in our area, specifically our clients, their employees, their team members, and beyond, is by far what we're most proud of. We helped get PPP loans, restaurant revitalization grants, just everything else, and the advisory we had to do and help them get through all of this. Our attrition rate very low. Very few of our clients ended up having to close and things like that. And I truly believe a large part of that is the impact we had, our team.
It sounds like you brought millions of dollars into the small business community. Did you, by any chance, ever track how much you helped bring into your towns?
We did. The first round of PPP loans, which if anybody who's listening remembers, was back in March, April of 2020. I think the deadline ended up being end of April, May, doesn't matter. We had over 140 loans and hit over $20 million that we brought into our clients. And I would love to go back. Round 2 was a lot less because fewer people qualified. And then now we're doing employee retention credits in the hundreds of thousands range. If I was to guess, we're definitely north of 25 to $30 million that we have put into our clients' hands easily, now that I think about it.
What a reason, if you're watching today in the local area, Kurt, and when you share this show later on today on the live feeds, what a reason to do business with Rickoff Business in Balance. And on that note, let's go back to you, Kev, for your next question.
Yeah, this is something I'm really interested in. I know, Kurt, that a part of your growth over the last few years has been through acquisition. And I always think acquisitions are much harder than people pretend that they make out to be. They're quite tough. But looking back, what did you do well, do you think? And what did you do not so well?
Well, it went absolutely perfect. There was not a hiccup. That's, of course, I almost said that with a straight face. What did we do well? I think we did well initially was engaging both teams, especially the firm we acquired. Dave helped me work on a plan. I went in, to talk to them one-on-one. We also did team luncheons and things like that. So I think one of the first things we did extremely well was team engagement, making sure that they knew, very transparent to them what was happening. Their jobs are not in danger. We wanted them, we needed them, and things like that. So I think from the initial onset, that was very, very important, and we did a great job because we knew that they were going to have a lot of questions, and they should, and I met with them numerous times over and over. What we did not do so well was probably forcing and pushing the aligning of the firms quicker. We felt that the technology was already pretty well aligned, and then realized that thought the cultures were well aligned because the seller and myself had met so many times and talked about our strong desire for client service and things like that. But then when you dig in, you realize how different the cultures are, and that neither one's right or wrong, but they're just different, and how to address that. So aligning the processes, we should have forced and pushed sooner. I allowed myself to pull back on that due to some pushback on acceptance of technology and things like that, and I did not want to, again, risk losing clients because I might risk losing team members early. I should have pushed harder and had a little better plan coming into it, which I would absolutely have going into another one if we so choose.
Right. I think when you're doing something like that, having a tool like the success framework can really help, because you've got your joint management and leadership team working on what your culture really is, because you just want one culture, right? And I've been in that situation that you described so well, Kurt, that you get into a business, you think it's kind of aligned, but then you pick up a rock or two, and there's something not very there's something not very pleasant underneath it all, and you've got to be prepared for that. And I think it's one of the most challenging things that management has to do, which is to bring two cultures together and make it into one. Because to me, that's the one of the best descriptions of a change management project, which I always think is the hardest thing that a leader has to tackle. Driving change and making it successful.
Absolutely. And then realizing the difference between culture and personality. So we thought, well, we had to line these offices, things had to be 100%. Well, culturally, they can be aligned, but each office can have its own personality per se. One office may like to go to happy hours, the other one doesn't. One office and to me, that's okay. That's perfectly fine that each office has its own quote unquote personality, but long as the culture and the values are aligned, that's where the key is. And that's something, really struggled with, almost what's the difference? No, it's got to be, that we can't do this. Well, realizing, and a good friend of mine, Steve Gift, who has multiple offices, is where I really realized when his team was talking about, well, the one team loved to have inter-office Olympics where they'd roll around on chairs around the office, see who could do it the quickest. And, one of them loved to do that where the other one didn't. But yet when they spoke, they all spoke the same culture and values and were really aligned, doing, focused on that.
Right. Personally, I would mandate happy hours, but well, that's just me.
That's where I fell flat on my face, because that's what I wanted to mandate. But I didn't know there was people that didn't enjoy them as much.
There's a lesson right there, isn't there, Kurt?
Yeah.
There. Particularly in your city and towns where you've got, is it Coors Light?
Well, actually, Budweiser, InBev has the headquarters here in St. Louis, and and now, of course, 1 million craft breweries have popped up over the last years, ever since InBev bought out Anheuser-Busch. So definitely a St. Louis area is a blue collar beer drinking area.
Right.
Thanks for the recovery there. I just got my coat and I was looking out for the taxi. So, Kevin, what else would you like to ask this brilliant businessman today?
Well, I've just got an observation about kind of the happy hour thing. But one of the things I very often did as a CEO was to do Friday night wine club. So this would be one Friday a month, and you'd choose an office to go to, and I, as the CEO, would pour red or white wine or a soft drink for each individual in the office and talk to them about them. Kind of what you do the weekend, It's a great chance to say, oh, by the way, that sales presentation you did, I meant to mention it before, but I'm mentioning it now. It was outstanding. So a little pat on the back. But the idea of the CEO serving is a very strong metaphor for, the leader as a servant. The leader saying, what can I do to make your job better and more productive? What roadblocks can I take away? And I always did that, and it kind of cemented a culture of openness. Because, you know, when you're in that one-on-one situation, they can ask you any question.
Sure. Good
Personal,
idea.
about the business, about anything. And I always thought that worked really well to cement culture in an organization. And it was just a strong, powerful image of the leader serving.
I actually think your message is really good, Kev, and hopefully anyone who's watching can be reading the words on the screen. But I can't fail to point out I have this mental image of Kevin Turnbull going around the office. Yes, that presentation was pretty good. Yes, good old job, chap. Sorry.
Yeah, in your office, you'd probably do it with Scotch whiskey or something.
That's true. Very, very true, Kev.
You've got to watch for driving then, you know, because some people
indulge a little too much.
Totally. So, Kurt, any of your clients that will get to hear this back or watch this, are there any particular things this year that you're going out of your way to make sure your clients are learning about in terms of the evolution of your businesses? Is there anything that you want to tell them about?
Absolutely. You know, several items. One is the ongoing education of our team to, again, keep them, our clients, not only in compliance, that's technically the easy part, which is not easy at all, but it's more straightforward to keep them in compliance with tax deadlines. But we're doing a lot of hard work and research and learning and training on all these other, what I talked about earlier, the PPP loans, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the government's coming out with so many of those new ones, and the employee retention credit's the big one now. The restaurants look to be possibly getting some more money and help and assistance. So we're doing a lot of that my team is, you know, things that the clients don't always know, you know, the amount of time and energy put forth to just learn this. And if anybody knows our government well enough, they change the rules daily. And as I put, you know, move the goalposts constantly. And number two, we're getting ready to roll out the Core 24, which is an online business education platform that we've been developing for the last 2 to 3 years. And, you know, all my current clients will have access to that soon within the next couple months. And there'll be 24 cores on, you know, everything from selecting a business entity, setting up a business plan and things. And that will play into our advisory portion of our business that we are going to kind of carve out as an additional service that new clients will be able to as well have access to, and kind of allow us to enhance that service, if you will. We've always offered consulting and business advisory to our clients since day one in 1974, but we're going to really start to carve that out and try to make that even more refined, leading with the Core 24, the business mastery.
That's a great message. I love the fact, Kevin, I don't know what you think, but the fact, Kurt, you're talking about your team learning, but also from that base, inviting your clients to learn also to build their business.
Yeah. And that's, you know, we're even going to brand it. It's going to be called Success Business Advisory, and be able to, you know, by branding it, we'll be able to showcase it, allow our clients to focus on that training and learning alongside us. As so many people would love to dig in and learn more about that business ownership.
That's a great mission.
Yeah, all fantastic. Yeah. And I'll tell you for why that I think these initiatives are really important and powerful. And it kind of goes back to, you know, the start of the pandemic. And Dave, you'll have found this, and I'm sure Kurt, you will have found this with your clients as well, that they didn't really know what they were doing because they're not used to thinking ahead. So I'm working with my clients. Say, well, what are you going to do? What's the plan for the next 4 months, 6 months? And they had to be pushed into that. And the more they have kind of, the continual learning environment, the more they're going to be better at strategy. Because I found at the end of the pandemic, and we're not quite there yet, but, you know, from the end of last year, I've been talking to my clients about, well, what are you going to do when the pandemic's over? you didn't plan for it to be there, and you didn't plan through it, and now you're not planning for the end of it. And having those core skills, I think, will make people better prepared to ask and answer these difficult questions.
Great
Absolutely.
chat. Great chat. So, Kurt, as we come towards the end of this episode, and you've given some really fabulous insights to what you're about. So just talk to us a little bit about, so Rickoff Business in Balance and the brand that you are today. And my understanding is you are a turnkey business accounting, consultancy and advisory service to the clients that you serve. And let's just pull back up that $20 million from earlier, possibly 30 plus now and in the future. What do you want to say to your clients, particularly out there, about what you want them to stay focused on in the second half of this year? Is there anything that springs to mind? I know Kevin and I could probably come up with a couple of things too. So anything that pops into your mind?
Well, first thing is always, and I hate to even say it because it sounds so cliche coming from business advisors, to focus on their business and, planning, like Kevin said, for the next 4 to 6, 8 months. Even the big planners have to realize they can't plan right now for 10 years or 5 years or 3 years. Focus on that 6 months right now and plan ahead, because things are changing and they're rapidly, and focus on that business while being very open to the communication open with their advisors, with our clients, talking to their client accounting and tax managers. Talk to them, call them. They will be calling you as well, to talk about your plans. What is the next 4 to 6 months? We lead in with tax planning, but it's so much beyond that. But that's kind of the foundation, and that's where the discussion happens about, okay, you got these loans, and now you might be sitting on some cash ready to reopen. Where are you going to invest that? Are you going to put that into equipment, people, things like that? So again, just again, communication open with us and their advisors, and being willing to spend that time to focus with them on their business.
That's really good, solid advice. And I like the fact that you're inviting people to talk to your team. And also, if you're thinking about, well, I'm listening to this and maybe your advisor doesn't quite do that for you, get in touch with Kurt and the team and allow them or ask them to help you build your business. Kevin, from your perspective, is there anything you would add to that?
I think so. I think this is a key time period you're talking about, through the end of 2021, because the pandemic has accelerated change in many sectors of business. And if I was a business owner, I would be focusing in on, well, what's changed in my sector? What's changed in my marketplace? Are the channels to market still the same? Like, for example, the rise of online channels for many things now, unbelievably. The rise of remote working, is that a thing? Is that temporary? Is it permanent? But what has impacted my business, and what can I take advantage of moving forward? Because I think a lot of business owners have a kind of let's get back to business as usual mentality. And there's no such thing in my book. And it's not going to go back to where it was in 2019. It's going to be what it is in 2022. And, every leader has a responsibility to at least give some brain cell thought to trying to develop what that could look like. So that's why I think it's a really important next 5 months to the end of the year. Very
well put. Because I agree. Last year, when one of our team meetings we have monthly, I found a quote that went something like, I veered so far from normal, I'm not sure I want to go back to normal, or something. And I remember posting that back in May or so, when things were extremely abnormal. And the more I thought about it, to your point, Kevin, is we can't, and I don't want to. We need to take this opportunity to improve where we're at and adjust for the new market, for the new needs of our client, the new needs of our customers. We're rapidly hiring people, not just to replace, but we're hiring beyond what we need because we see a void in our industry. We talk about those loans last year. It's amazing how many people we talked to that didn't get the help that they needed in the last 18 months for employee retention credit, all this other stuff, plus just navigating these new waters, if you will. So again, that's why we're not just hiring for today's needs. We're going to build capacity because we don't even have an active marketing program right now, but the number of clients we brought in just in June was staggering because then they need help. So we need to, build that capacity for them.
That's good, Kurt. And for those of you listening, this has been season 2 Consutlervation. We have been talking today to Kurt Rickoff, CEO of Rickoff Business in Balance, along with the many other roles you also play, Kurt, in your life and in your business. He has shared with us some of his proudest moments of the last 18 months, told us an incredible story about the amount of business he has helped generate to bring back to his community through the loans and the PPP grant process for restaurant revitalization and much, much more. Let's be clear, Kevin, he's not claiming he did it either. His team executed that. He gave us some real clarity around the importance of working to a framework, to a structure, to a future view, knowing where you're going and working on the strengths that you have, as well as the differences when you're working with your spouse or a partner. And he leaves us with a really interesting thought, which is about Rickoff Business in Balance is here to help you build your business, to work with his Success Business Advisory in order to help you grow and prosper. Kurt, thank you so much for your time and standing in on the show for Doug and Cynthia, who will be with us next week. Appreciate that, my friend.
Hey, my pleasure. Appreciate it. Glad to be here and appreciate the invite.
Pleasure. And Kevin, thanks for your deep-rooted questions of putting Kurt into a space of thinking.
It's been my pleasure. And of course, Kurt, you won't appreciate this, but the Euros continue tonight.
Totally.
Italian,
yeah.
Italy versus Spain, and then England and Denmark tomorrow.
It's consuming a lot of the headlines, Kevin, isn't it, in Europe and here? And for those of you listening, if you're prompted into action with this, do reach out to Kurt and his team at rickoffbusinessinbalance.com. So it's rickoff.com, isn't it, Kurt?
Yes.
Or if you want to speak to us as well, info@rlc-global.com. We'd be delighted to help you as well. So this has been Consutlervation. I have been Dave Evans. Every success with your business.